Hi, Viva Assad from HN Gamers here with another tutorial on the Atavism modular customization system. As always, you can find our tutorials on our website, and they're always free. You can go through, and most of our stuff is always up to date. If not, reach out to me on Discord, and I'll do my best to get it up to date as quickly as possible. Let's say you bought Character Creator 4, and you are working in Character Creator 4, and you've created a bunch of characters within the Character Creator 4 system. And you want to export these characters into Atavism. How do we do this? Character Creator 4 isn't really forthcoming with a lot of these processes, and while they have some great tutorials, they don't really talk about the ways to use this in a modular way. They talk about how to use this as a static character. This character, for example, in the scene in front of me, is a static character that would be exported out of Character Created 4 into your game. Typically, you would create this game creator, game character by clicking the convert to game base. And once you've done this, it would decimate the character, bring it down to a specific level of detail. And then once it was brought down to that, export it out as an FBX into your game. You lose access to the sliders, you lose access to the ability to change in this, and the decimated character really isn't all that great inside of Unity in comparison to the previous character. So your choices are to either utilize it as the character as it is, or to convert it into the game base. This is very important in some of the steps that we've done previously, where we've talked about the skin mesh renders and how to export those out. If you don't export it to a game base, then the character will come in to Unity with a different skeleton. And the skeleton is the most important aspect that we'll talk about here when we move over into Unity. Is you can see we've got this CC base bone root skeleton here, and that's what it's named if you do not change it to a character game base. If you do change it to the game base, then it changes it over to the standard root hips information that we're used to in the standard Unity topologies. If you leave it as it is, though, you can utilize the systems in between one another and keep the high poly count on your characters without losing any of the faces and things like that, and then work with it inside of Unity and decimate it inside of Unity using LODs. There's some other things that you can do with Remesher and a couple other tools that will actually lower the LODs while providing this functionality and keeping your character within the highest fidelity within your character creator 4 scene. So previously we talked about breaking this out and separating this character out and having the individual meshes as hands and things so that we can separate it out. And I've done that over inside of the Unity scene already and with our character that we're working on with this. So I've also taken the liberty of separating out each one of the parts of the clothing that we see here within the Character Creator 4, and we're going to use this today and create our equipment displays and then load them inside of Atavism and launch the game with Atavism, see them on our character and equip them and unequip them. And this is all using the systems that are within Atavism that are all native to Atavism. So you don't need any additional tools, you don't need any additional software, you don't need any additional scripting or knowledge of how to do this. Set it up just normal and follow the procedures that we're going to go over today to make sure that the equips properly. So once you have exported everything out of Atavism or out of Character Creator 4, as we've discussed in our previous sessions, you're going to get your stuff into your scene or into your um, project into this folder structure similar to this. I suggest you put it into a company name followed by CC4 characters or something like that, and then break it down into the individual characters. All of the broken out parts you can see are here in the root. And when you run through the CC4 importer system, it will import one, and you do need to import each one. Anything that is not imported will show up with a little gray icon over here instead of the green icon, and then it won't properly present in the scene. It will have it will show up as with materials and things, but it won't have the best visual display in the scenes unless you run it through this process. Once you have run it through this process, you're going to get this folder called prefabs. This prefabs I have then broken up into equipment and hair so that we can see the hair and separately and our equipment is separately. And these are the 4 pieces of equipment that we're going to work on today. And we're going to work on assembling our character that we're going to utilize in our game. And I've already done all of this work, but we need to make sure that you guys understand how to do this process because this isn't necessarily easy. Um, Once you understand the workflow, it's very easy. But getting the workflow down is not the easiest thing in the world. It is definitely a challenge the last couple of weeks as I've worked through this to determine all of these steps to make sure that we could utilize these properly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in our base. So if you followed our base in before, you'll notice there's nothing in our base. That is an empty scene. There's nothing in there in this scene, unlike in the previous one. I didn't even put in a pair of underwear because I didn't want to bother with that on this. That was purely for that video. I prefer my characters to be as naked as possible, and I will let the parents sort it out as it may be. So what we see here is we see our body, our eyes, our occlusions. You can actually delete everything in here except for the bone root. There's nothing in here that we need. Everything else is going to be built out. So if you go down here, you can see that we've got feet over here. We've got hands. We've got heads. We've got hips. We've got a different pair of hips, lower limbs, legs. So I'm going to grab everything except for that second pair of hips. I'm just going to drag it right into the base root, and you're going to see it reappear into the scene. This should actually be at 000, depending on how you're exporting this out. The items may require it to be at 00. I'm going to back off a little bit so we don't see any nudity as much as possible. And so at this point, what we've got is a character who has a skeleton and has a bunch of individually attached skeletons in the scene. And if you put a runtime animator on here, then nothing would animate. You can see the animation that is supposed to be going on in the scene, but it is not going to animate because it cannot animate. There is nothing for it to animate because there is no skeletons attached. So the next step is we need to attach all of these skeletons. You can do this many ways. There's a couple of different softwares that will do this, and Infinity PBR has a script that it will allow you to do this, and then I provide this script as well. So the process that you would do is grab the original model that you're working with, which is our base model, highlight all of the additional models that you're going to attach to it, click Select Sources, click Remap Skin. You can see something happened there in the scene. It's like it moved a little bit. And when you click play, what's going to happen is we're now going to see that this item is actually rendering properly. So if I throw our controller in there, it's not rendering properly. Why? Because I chose the wrong items. Let's see. Okay, a minute ago I made a mistake. I mentioned that it's okay to delete these items here out of the scene. And that is incorrect. You cannot delete these items out of the scene. So make sure that you don't delete these items. They all have to stay there. These are the representations of the body that exist in the scene. And if you delete them, then the attachments won't work as they are here. So you'll need that to be present. And so once you do that, so we'll go ahead and repeat this process. I did this a second ago and just verified. I made sure that uh, we got everything in the scene properly, and then it did work. So we'll bring our base item back in, and then make sure that you don't bring the base item into itself. And then once you have that, then you can select the base item. You can select your sources. Make sure you don't select the base, and then reskin it. And then you can see the reskinned item. And we'll zoom back out. We'll select the base again here, and then give it an animation controller. And then when we play it, we'll see that character has animated at this point. So this is assembling the character now. So this is a modular character and will work in the modular character system. So each one of these body parts are separated out to the parts that the modular system works with. And so it's the hands, the upper, the lower, the torso, the heads, the upper and lower arms, upper and lower legs, and the feet. So all of those items, they're not required, but those give you the best broken down individual modular part that you could for your character. So we've got this done, and we're going to go on to the next step, which is actually creating your equipment display. And I've already created a couple of equipment displays, but we're gonna take these equipment, and you can see that we've got 4 items here, and we've got some bottoms, we've got some leggings, we got a top, and we got a top sleeve. These are the items that we're going to actually spawn in game onto our character, and we're going to go down to just the standard location where all of our equipment display is, and go into the mage, and because these are casting gear, and I chose the uh, version 1 for all of these parts, so the boots, the gloves, the hood, the lower, the shoulder, and the upper. And in here, what I did is I deleted the gear that was currently existing for the female. So we're on the human, race, any, class, gender male, gender female. In the modular part, gear part for gender, in this field here, you're going to drag the equipment item that you want. And here we've got the tops, so we're just going to drag the top into there and drop them in there. At the very bottom, this enable boned modular equipment needs to be checkmarked. Once this is checkmarked, the system will then take this part and then take the part that is inside of Atavism on the character. This also needs to be selected on the skin tab. And as long as these two are enabled, the system will go through and say, I have a skinned part that needs to be attached to my skinned character. Reskin this mesh to my skinned character. And it will reskin the character and the mesh. So let's go ahead and see that. I've already taken the liberty of doing all of those meshes and creating the equipment displays for them. And we can look at those real quick. And you can see that here is the armor leggings. I don't have a glove for that. I didn't set up the gloves. I didn't set up the hoods. Here is the armor bottoms. Here is the armor sleeves and the armor top. And that would correspond to each one of these items here. So now when the game is running, we can launch into the character selection screen. And if the character has the items on them, they will appear on the screen. Hello. Can I click, please? After a little bit of troubleshooting and diagnosing some issues, we are in the game and determined that there was a problem with the importation of the Text Mesh Pro system. So a quick importation allowed the system to let me in, and here we are sitting at our character screen. So we're going to go ahead and select our female character, and we're going to log into the game. And we're just going to use some developer naming conventions. And once we're in the game, we're going to give ourselves a couple of pieces of gear. And once we have those gear, then we can equip them, and you'll see that all of the processes that we have done have actually allowed us to equip a gear to inside of the game. So here we self. I'm going to give myself a little spin around here, and then gain commands, select cloth. We're going to give myself the cloth tunic and the pants, gloves, shoes, hood. I think that's all. Remember, not all of those items were used during our stand-ups, so not everything will work, but we should have all of the items that we used for some of it, actually. So here we go, switch out to, and we've got nothing on us, so let's take a look and see what we have. We have the cloth hood. Where are these items? It should be the cloth tunic one, right? Yes, so mage 2 upper 1 prefab should be the cloth tunic one. After another additional troubleshooting step and some code changes, we now have a character who is equipping the gear, as expected. You can see it moves around with her. And so this was the process for bringing in a character creator for character from character creator 4, exporting it out, splitting it up, bringing it over into Unity, importing the characters, creating equipment displays, and then bringing those equipment displays into the game and allowing you to mount those onto your character. And you can see that this is the same character mesh that we had over here in Character Creator 4. And the same outfit. There is one thing that's not working here, and that is the feet, but I noticed that last night, like the lower leg items, I noticed that last night, and I can't tell if it is actually appearing on this feet or if there is something not happening. Let's determine that. So you can see here when we equip the character, It pulls in that armor top, bottoms. There is the leggings. Oh, that's weird. Maybe the model I selected was the tongue and not. That's why the leggings are not appearing. So other than that, you can see that we have gear and we can run around. We can jump and it all moves with us as we expect. Thank you very much for joining me for another session of Ancient Gamers Presents. I'll see you next time.